It's hard to believe that it's 15 years to the day tomorrow, at the time of recording this video, that we first saw a Class 395 in service from London St Pancras. In today's train sim scenario, I'm doing a full run from St Pancras to Ramsgate, firstly in overhead electric mode to Ebbsfleet International, and then in third rail mode along the Kent coast to Ramsgate and taking full advantage of Train Sim World and Train Sim Classic.
And hello, welcome to London St Pancras International, and we're embarking on a service to Ramsgate today. So let's get the train set up. So master key on. AWS setup. And we do have a train coming into the platform. It is busy with a 17:54 departure. The one thing I do like to do, and it's probably not tremendously authentic, but I like to keep the doors open, and that's simply because you just get tremendous noise of the traction motors, which is quite exciting to witness. We'll have a view on that. And we've got the rainbow liveried Javelin coming into the platform. So as I mentioned in the introduction, it's another one of those opportunities to do the full run. So we'll be going all the way through to Ramsgate. So we'll be going as far as Faversham on Train Sim World 4, and then with Train Sim Classic, you can see there we've got a freight train, Class 66 waiting as well. You could hear the whir of the motors. Always like with the cab just to get that view in the Train Sim World version. It's just adds a little bit more excitement to it. basically from now we can pretty much take on board the view from our display down here, and we can go right up to pretty decent speed. And I have to say, although this has been out for some time now, I still find it a great run. And yes, we have the fast run through to Ashford, which is also great to do, but I think it's quite good that you can transfer to DC mode at Ebbsfleet International. Oh, 200 is our next, because we're in kilometres per hour, and when you get the indication that it's flashing, then you know you have to get down to that speed. But we're getting down to 160, that's 100 miles an hour exactly. We aren't too far off from our Straford international stop. I have to say, when I first did this in Train Sim Classic, I didn't massively enjoy it, but I must say this Train Sim World version is good. And then when you get above ground, and the scenery's pretty good on the run through to Rsmsgate as well, so you'll see we're not too far off the platforms now. That's Stratford International. Remember, we are on kilometres per hour and not miles per hour. I'm not normally this slow coming into the platform, but I must confess it's quite some time since I've ridden this train. You'd expect there to be a few more waiting actually, but you might suddenly find when we get to the end of the platform that you'll start to see passengers striding through. To see one or two sitting down on the benches as well, you never used to get that. Got a few getting off. They look a bit uncertain actually, don't they, in the kind of standing in a bit of a huddle. It's still an irritant about Train Sim World. It's got many good features, but I wish they'd just do something about the passengers. Just make it a little bit more realistic. And we should be able to shut the doors in a second because we are due away 1802. And we'll quickly gather speed in this 395 Javelin. I've got a sound mod from the Train Sim community website. That makes it a lot better. I mean, it might well be true that it's probably not that realistic to hear the sound of the motors, but I think it just makes it that bit more enjoyable. You can hear them in the carriages, and sometimes I don't think you want a quiet view from the cab. We will emerge from this tunnel section. I mean, we're underneath central London at the moment, but we'll emerge very soon into Dagenham in Essex, and then we'll diverge again into the tunnels before the last bit towards Ebbsfleet International, and then we will move over to DC Power. Of course, 225 kilometers per hour, as you can see above, is 140 miles an hour. That's why when the Class 91s came out, they were called Intercity 225. Not that they ever reached that speed in service run anyway. It's only slightly unrealistic thing about Train Sim World. Occasionally you'll see a light at the end of the tunnel, only to find it goes dark again as it builds a bit more of the tunnel in. You won't be surprised that the 395 does hurtle away at a Javelin light speed. Great fun to drive. This route was heavily modified again for the release of, I forgot what it was now. Was it in time for Train Sim World 3 or was it Train Sim World 2? I've forgotten. Now we are not too far off this time, I think, from the end of this tunnel section. And another slight apology, I suppose, because we do have a Avanti West Coast liveried 395 on the back. That's courtesy of having the mod in place, purely by chance. Now, we won't have that for the second part of Ramsgate, so I hope that doesn't spoil too many people's realism. You do get a tremendous sense of speed hurtling along with this thing, and you'll notice the real difference when we become a DC unit and we start picking up the power from the shoes instead of the pantograph. Hoping I remember how to change from the pantograph to DC mode. Of course, the original version of this game for Train Sim World was alright but not brilliant, and then the upgrade for it, which included the line to Ashford, they massively improved on the catenary and the general scenery, and I have to say overall improvement massively. And although I can't say I'd drive it every day, it's lovely to come back to and have a good fast run on it. Was of course the M5 motorway. You're just conscious that you have to react to those brakes fairly quickly, because otherwise you're going to be into an emergency brake scenario. So we're far off that stop at Ebbsfleet. And of course, worth emphasising the point, but Straford International and Ebbsfleet International are anything but, because they only serve Kentish lines. Oh, excuse me, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat. It's the lower level platforms to the right that take in the lines off to Ashford and eventually to Dover. But actually, I think we've still got Broadstairs on the front, and there's something about the timetables at St Pancras that they don't massively want to encourage you always to go on certain services, so they kind of put a false destination. I'm not sure that would apply to the front of the train, but certainly to the departure board, so I believe. That's a point. I don't think I put the AWS on, did I? It's better we've got the AWS on there. Not that we'd have needed it to this point. So, this is the point at which we have to sort out the DC mode. So, shoes down. Okay, so we are now into DC mode, finally. Do me a bit of doing, I've kind of forgotten, it's such a long time since I've done it. And the one thing you will notice straight away is that our acceleration is nowhere near as fast. See another one just coming into the platform, so that'll be switching of course into AC mode in preparation for the run through the tunnel area into St Pancras. And I am playing this as though it is the current times in June, so a lovely summer's evening. We've not had too many of those this June in reality, but why would we want to ride the train in cold, miserable weather, the sort of weather that we've had? We are preparing for the 30 miles an hour speed restriction on the approach to Gravesend. There's one piece of DLC that I think they've really captured the track joint sounds with. It's the Class 700 Thameslink, and I don't, when I say they, I mean actually the train sim mod. Nice to see Gravesend station looking pretty busy. And we'll go through to the marker at the end of the platform. So Strud is next. Whole sequence of stations really, particularly between here and Gillingham. It kind of gets a bit faster after that. But through the Medway Towns, it's pretty slow going. We have got 6 miles firstly to Strud, and then it's kind of the little section through Rochester, Chatham and Gillingham. They're pretty close together. We will get up to about 90 odd, essentially, on this section. .70 is our speed limit at the moment. Haven't got a working GMSR on this thing, I don't think. Not that any of them work massively well. But I have to say that when this piece of DLC first came out, it was great that you could do a run as far as Faversham, and it's still a pretty decent run in its own right, but frustrating as well. It's like, but this is a Ramsgate service. Wouldn't it be good if we could do the whole run to Ramsgate? Well, now, of course, because of Train Sim Classic, we can. Love to see more high-speed pieces of DLC though for the UK for Train Sim World 4. This is the fabulous freight yard. Good if we could have a chunk of the West Coast main line, and of course we do have a bit of the East Coast main line, but oh, to pick Peterborough to Doncaster feels like it's the most boring section of all. But again, it's perfectly possible using Train Sim Classic to do full runs. And speaking of which, with the Thames Link, it's perfectly possible to do now a full Rainham to Luton service with a 700. Having done 225 kilometers an hour, 140 miles an hour, this 70 mile an hour just feels a bit slow. No, we do have a speed limit coming into Strood. Great to see the 465s as well. And that's the one great thing about this southeastern add-on now, because with the Javelins, with the 700s, and you've got the 375s, you've got the 465s, it feels fairly comprehensive. You get the odd rail tour working as well. We probably won't see one of those on this run. This is kind of like a post-evening shower train, really. In fact, you would imagine it'd be pretty packed from St Pancras. It's a bit like an aircraft coming in to land, doesn't it? It's just trying to get this 15 right, because you don't want to be crawling along at 15 for longer than necessary. But it's coming up pretty soon beyond this tunnel, that I do know. So even then I'm a bit too slow with it. This feels like we're crawling into the platform. Even more so if we're doing 10, we must just try and keep it at 15, because it won't take as long to stop. Just looked as though some of those passengers had a bit of a pint, I think. They looked a bit drunk. That wasn't very clever, was it? Roll back slightly then. No, I don't think I've ever done that. I was too excited about seeing the 375 passing overhead. So despite being slightly late leaving Ebbsfleet, we're actually not due away until 18:31, so we'll hang on for a minute, and we are waiting for the signals to clear anyway. We do have another 395 coming in. Yeah, we've got the signal clearance as well. That's good. Fascinating piece of railway this is. We pass over the Medway. Just conscious, being a little bit cautious here because that last signal was single yellow. I don't want to be totally caught out. We're okay, I think we're still yellow. Should take us into the platforms quite nicely. And here we are entering the new Rochester station. Past the platforms of the old one in a minute. Should be about right, I think. I mean, I can't help wondering, is there really that much slack in the timetable? I mean, it's a fairly decent timetable in terms of the amount of traffic that we get nowadays on it. So we can't be massively lacking on that, I wouldn't have thought. We have Chatham Station sandwiched in between the two tunnels. feels as though it just takes so minimal effort driving this train. And if anybody has more realistic knowledge of the timetable than me, I'd love to know whether these long gaps are in any way realistic. And also, I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts. Do they prefer the idea of a run on Train Sim World first and then going into Train Sim Classic? I mean, we could have done the entire run from St Pancras through to Rsmsgate in Train Sim Classic. But the other alternative is that they eventually extended this Train Sim World route, but you somehow, I could be completely wrong of course, but you somehow feel as though that's never likely to happen. Yes, before anybody says, I know I've got the doors open, just my own preference in terms of the sound. And I always, when I record these things, I like to record both the commentary and the sound of the train on separate sound channels, and then that way I can make sure that it's, hopefully the balance is reasonably okay. Again, we're on the approach into Gillingham now, platform 2. Just feels as though after Chatham and Rochester, we've got virtually nobody waiting. So we are stopping at Rainham, that's our next stop. So connections, of course, with Thameslink services to Luton, then Sittingbourne, and then Faversham, and that will be the Train Sim World 4 bit. But we're going to do the whole run in this one video, so we'll carry on Train Sim Classic right the way through to Ramsgate. I love the sounds from this Train Sim community sound mod. I think it really brings them out. And I've got a mod that I use on the Train Sim Classic variety as well, so again, be interested to hear people's thoughts. There's some brilliant creations out there, and there's lots that you can just make these things more enjoyable than the default setup, and quite easy to do. And of course these mods unfortunately only work on Train Sim World on the PC version. I think I'm right in saying. Then we build a bit of speed up to 80 now. We've not got massively long before that Rainham stop. Sometimes Train Sim World 4 though is irritatingly stuttery though, I have to say. Kind of wished I'd deleted that Avanti West Coast mod now, because it, again, dead easy to get rid of. All that I have to have done is to place it outside in another folder. Looks good when you operate into Manchester Piccadilly, not so good on the southeastern route such as this. We mustn't forget that we're making the stop at Rainham. And again, it's good that on this version of this route you can take the Thameslink service as far as Dartford, and then again carry on Train Sim Classic with the Steam Workshop route from Nicholas, which would take you through the London bits, and then again with the Middle and Main Line you can take that up to Luton. Nice to see a different liveried one as well there. So we really are into the Kent countryside now. Sittingbourne, the next stop. Very much kind of farming land as we get deeper and deeper into the countryside. Lovely summer's evening. do get the chance to get up to 80 miles an hour on this stretch. Not a much on the HS1 speeds though. We were a bit slow there, weren't we, well, I'll say I was a bit slow to detect the reduction in speed limit to 70. We're quickly back up again to 80. There's the 80 marker, but of course we can't yet get up to 80 until the whole of the trains got through it. Now we're okay. And again, we need to just keep an eye on the arrival into Sittingbourne. I think with those track joint sounds, I think the fascinating thing is you can have a whole variety of different sounds, and they're kind of slightly more random, and it's a bit like that in real life. You just don't get exactly the same sound going over every single set of points. I've always thought if Armstrong Powerhouse could produce a track joint sound enhancement pack, I'd be absolutely the first to buy it. And I've got a suspicion I'm a little bit more obsessed about this than most people. It's great having all the sounds, but I always think that's such an important part of realism. So here we are at Sittingbourne. Just fantastic that virtually every stop we've had, we've seen other trains in situ. Looks the creek as well as we come into the stop. not taken advantage of, actually. Just having a little wander as well here. And of course, perfectly go in there, can't you? Just don't want to do a Frank Spencer moment though and actually get onto the train and then find it moves off. There we are, and of course we can go in because we are the driver. And yes, I know I've left the doors open. It's all part of the plan. I think it's safe to say that train was not stopping. So Faversham will be our final part of the Train Sim World part of this route, but then we'll carry on Train Sim Classic and we'll take it all the way down to the coast and to Rsmsgate, through various lovely pretty seaside places as well on the way through. And Margate as well. Very much. You feel as though you're in Only Fools and Horses territory, don't you, going to Margate? It's kind of that hazy summer evening sunshine. I might shut the doors at Faversham. I have to confess I don't know some of these stations that we're not stopping at. So again, we've got clearance for 85 and then even 90 coming up. We have quite a panoramic view from the cab. We've got 90 and then we're almost immediately followed by 75. Kind of makes sense going the other way, but almost feels like what's the point in having the 90? So whilst we're here, let's just get these doors shut, just in preparation for the continuation of our journey. And again, I've said about the 75, then forgot about it. We've now got 60 we're heading towards, so we got a single yellow, so I think we're okay, and we're not going to be signalled into one of the bay platforms, so I think we are straight into platform 3. Just conscious that I'm slightly using the power a bit too much here, although with this timetable we shouldn't have a massive problem. So this is Faversham, and as I say, once we get into the station we've opened the doors, and then we'll flick straight through to Train Sim Classic for the continuation of this journey. Just waiting for departure from Faversham to continue the journey down to Ramsgate. And I do have the soundbar installed from, it's a German site actually, Rail Sim, I think it's -DE. Now some people might say, it's slightly unrealistic because you wouldn't hear the noises from the cab, and he does allow for that, and he gives a few instructions on what to do if you want to remove those sounds. But it's kind of one of those things that you would hear it as a passenger sitting in the carriages behind, so I don't know, I like it personally. Personal favourite of mine is the track joint sounds as well. They sound really impressive, and I've probably said it in the other videos, but if Armstrong Powerhouse did a track joint enhancement pack, I'd be first in the queue, because I always feel as though that's something that really distinguishes a train from being on any other mode of transport. It's just an amazing sound. Shut your eyes and you know you're on a train. Fairly fast run really down to Ramsgate. There's plenty of stops along the way, plenty of level crossings, foot crossings as well. But we're not quite non-stop, we'll pass through a few stations as well. It's a very old add-on, this DLC, that introduced this Class 395 Javelin to Train Sim Classic. Of course, the route itself is a much newer route. It's the London, Victoria and Dover and Ramsgate line. And it was created by, I think it was Danny for Dovetail Games, and he is genuinely a Kent local, so he knows these parts like the back of his hand. There was various Steam Workshop versions that were done but weren't complete, and you just kind of get the feeling he must have been kind of hankering at his bosses to get this route out and done for Train Simulator. I'm sure it's been very popular. Having said that, I think I've yet to do a full run to Dover. Dover Priory, of course. The scenario itself was actually set originally in snowy conditions, and it would have been a kind of a winter's night, but do it in the summer's evening, much more enjoyable. Well, I think anyway. So we just got to keep a kind of an eye out towards that Whitstable stop. We've got the 50 mile an hour coming up first of all. That should kind of introduce us towards the slower speed that we need. You can just about get a glimpse of that 50 board coming up, the Mortis board. Morpeth board, I should say, not Mortis board. Again, nice to see all the custom models, and gives you a real atmosphere for these stations. We are going to be a bit further down the platform here. Should be about right. And we are probably, what, 10 seconds late? Herne Bay next. Just trying to strike the balance really, because you can't, as far as I know, I don't think you can switch off the driver vigilance alarm thingy on this, so if we keep going to the outside view, then we're going to get an emergency brake. So it's kind of thinking, well, just being careful on when we use it. I think you're all right as long as you are, if you kind of move the accelerator button a bit, I think you're okay. Happy to show off the back of the train now that we haven't got an Avanti West Coast reskin. Kind of wished I'd removed that mod before doing part one. I think we've got a tick for the first stop there. Of course, in reality, this scenario itself actually goes from Stocks and Gravesend, but I wanted to do part one to Faversham on Train Sim World, so kind of had to do this first bit twice, if you see what I mean. Such an array of content really nowadays available for Train Sim that you kind of almost forget how good certain trains are to drive, and you just don't have the time. There's 1,000,001 more videos that I could create and various routes, and if anybody does want to comment and suggest, then I'm quite happy to listen, providing it's available in the game, of course. Fascinating when you watch a real video, these runs too. If you can work out the exact stopping points and landmarks, things to look out for, to know when exactly to start braking. So the bus garage there on the right. They've got quite an old school country branch line feel about them, these stations in Kent. Obviously very, very heavily used. You're at Herne Bay. Just to demonstrate, see the coastal bit in the background. So I think we were just about okay with time-wise there. So just to check on where we've got to stop at, we've got Herne Bay, Birchington-on-Sea, Margate, Broadstairs, and then Ramsgate. So just about half an hour's ride from here. You've got a stopping service coming in. I mean, the one thing I think would never happen in real life, that vigilance reminder thing just wouldn't go off if there was absolutely, you were stationary, there was no acceleration on. So Birchington-on-Sea next. So it's a fairly fast run, but the stations seem to come up quite thick and fast. We've got an 85 here, and then before you've got any chance whatsoever of getting up to 85, you've got an 80 What on earth is the point of that? And it's a very, very brief interlude because you've got 85 after that. You kind of can't dally if you want to keep to time, keep to the timetable. Which is always a bit of a challenge when you don't know the routes absolutely inside out. We've got a bit of fast running now coming up. 90. It's nicely showing up the Kent countryside. There's no first class on these things, but you get reasonable amount of comfort, and incredibly they have been in service for over 10 years now. It was obviously always part of the plan, but I never really quite appreciated it when they were building the original HS1 run, which, you know, instead of it going from Waterloo and going through the slow lines, suddenly this fast line operating out of St Pancras, and never thought that we would have kind of a new array of local services with using the fast section as well. Just a succession of level crossings. Running sounds with this sound that I think certainly get the sensation of speed. What's not to love about hurtling along in a train speed through the English countryside? On the first stage of the run, you kind of felt that the timetable was far too relaxed. It's a little bit tighter now, although I think we're doing quite well here. We arrive into Birchington on Sea. Again, there's the seaside. Perhaps help if open the doors, I suppose. I presume we've got a 1928 departure, so about a minute or so, not too bad. We do have a carriage view as well. We've been stripped to the passengers on this one. The problem is, on Train Sim Classic, when they have the passengers in there, they look just a bit too cartoony. So Margate next. This is part 2, or take 2 I should say, of this particular run. The last time I was coming into Margate and I slowed down appropriately for the speed, and then the alarm went up and could not for the life of me switch the thing off. Couldn't understand why it went off. So fingers crossed, and if you're watching this, then it's a fairly safe assumption that I've negotiated it, because otherwise I'd have deleted this video by now. And of course, if you're old enough, and I'm sure even if you're not old enough, you'll have seen Only Fools and Horses and the Jolly Boys out into Ramsgate. Of course, they filmed extensively around the Fun Fair, Dreamland, I think it's called, and you can see a representation of the Fun Fair as we come into the station as well. Quite nicely done, Ramsgate. And you'll remember the scene where the coach had blown up and Dalboy, Rodney and Trigger and the rest of them were standing outside Margate station, only to discover there was a train strike. There were no trains back to London, but they quite extensively filmed in and around the station. We do have to be a bit careful, because not only we've got the speed limit restrictions, we've also got a red signal coming up potentially. That might have been the reason what triggered the alarm off before. Because there's kind of no information whatsoever in the manual. But if you get above a certain speed, then it sets the alarm off. A bit annoying really, that. Well, we've got 20, we've got a single yellow anyway into the platform, so I'm hoping might be all right this time. Mystery to me really what the problem was last time. Still pretty popular, I think, as a day out. Margate. Yeah, it all looks good this time. We might be... No, we're all right time-wise as well. So, very, very quick look. Right, see, that's the bit where you'll remember from the scene from Only Fools and Horses. Outside the station, there was a bus stop roundabout, and then also just a quick check just to see that the seafront's there, and we've got Dreamland as well. Good to see they've put a roller coaster in as well. I presume it's not too generic, hopefully. It's reasonably accurate. Quite as good as having the Pleasure Beach on Train Sim World 4 on the Blackpool branches, and if you're lucky you can catch sight of a roller coaster in action as you're driving past it. Lovely route, that. I don't think there's a way of switching that thing off. It's just a bit of a nuisance. I mean, it's good having the realism, but if you want to look on the outside view, and it's good to see the outside view at times, see all the care and attention that's been created, then you don't want the risk of that going off. So, Broadstairs is our next stop, not Broadchurch. I suppose a combination of Broad Stairs and Hornchurch, I suppose. Just waiting. Yeah, we're all right now. We're good to go. Get up to 90 miles an hour now. All right, some good distant scenery done here, really. I always feel reasonably happy that I don't think the vigilance thing will go off when you're at full power speeding away, so we're okay for the moment. And again, just keeping okay. Well, it went off there, spoke too soon, just to prove me wrong, but we've got to keep an eye out for that Broadstairs stop, not too far away. Quite like the runs, I suppose, where you're going pretty fast, but there's something to keep you interested with a fairly frequent stop. I mean, sometimes when you see on the next station and it's kind of like 50, 60, 70 miles away, it's not quite so exciting. So we've got a 30 coming up, but it's after the station, so we're all right for the minute. Clearly some sort of train in front of us at some point, getting the repeated cautionary signals. We're slightly overshoot, aren't we, here? Should have put maximum brakes on slightly earlier. But we'll live with that. Look at that thing there. Tower. And again, anybody with a bit more local knowledge than me, I don't know Kent particularly well, then again, any comments about the realism or otherwise, things that aren't quite right or things that are very realistic, then I'm always more than happy and interested to hear from people. I think when you don't really know the route particularly well, you're kind of admiring it, thinking, yes, it looks realistic, it looks really good, but if you're a local, you'll say, but there should be that Ford dealer there, or there should be a Morrison Super Bowl, or whatever, you know, there's some things that are very distinctive from the line, and you just want it to be kind of looking as it should be, even if it's not massively beautiful. So Ramsgate, just a couple of miles away now, our final destination. We're kind of conscious of the fact that, I mean, we've got something like 6 minutes to reach it, and we're only a couple of miles away, but we have got a 30-mile-an-hour speed restriction coming up. Possibility of adverse signals as well, so I don't know whether we've got full clearance into the platform. Love the flange sound. Just the wheels just screech, because trains were really built to run on straight track and don't particularly like going round corners. And you can almost see the train protesting about it. I understand that where the Reverend Audrey got his ideas from for Thomas the Tank Engine. So we're not too far off from Journey's End now, into the platform, and we're approaching 8 o'clock at night in this summer's evening. Hints of blue sky. It's gone slightly on the cloudy side. Again, one of those pointless little speed enhancements, because we've technically got 50, but by the time we get there we'll be on 15, I think. That might be something to do with crossing the points, maybe. You're literally yards away from Ramsgate station itself and Journey's End. Just a gentle arrival into Ramsgate. And it looks as though we've got clearance into the platform 3, the indicator above the signal. Yeah, that's why we've got the restriction, because of the crossing of the point. Lovely old viaduct. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and again, it'd be interesting, you know, if you want to have a go at running the scenario yourself, then there's a couple of routes you need, and you could actually do it directly from St Pancras and Train Sim Classic if you want. We are a couple of miles away from the coast here at Ramsgate station. You'd have to get a walk, actually. No, you want to get a bus, car or taxi, however you want to get into the main part of the town. Hope very much you've enjoyed this run from London St Pancras. As I always say, I've really enjoyed it. Something satisfying about doing a end-to-end journey. It feels as though it's some sort of accomplishment. So I'll open the doors. We'll have a look outside. And again, you can see there's the sea over into the distance. I don't think you've got the depot modelled. Don't think there's anything of the town. And that's just about it. So, again, thanks for watching. And if you would like to like and subscribe, I'd be really grateful. Just adds to the support of the channel, encourages me to make more content and try and get as many people watching them as possible, really. It's just nice to know that people hopefully are enjoying the videos. Hope I don't waffle on too much. But until next time, for now, it's goodbye.